Friday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports for CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Myles Garrett recently requested a one-on-one meeting with owner Jimmy Haslam amidst his trade demand. Haslam denied the request. Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, with the whole Myles Garrett situation and Jimmy Haslam refusing that request.
Myles Garrett, we know he wants to trade. He's made that clear. Not about money. It's about playing for a competitive team. Does not feel right now the Browns are in that situation. The Browns have made it clear, publicly, privately, we are not trading this guy. He is not going anywhere. Andrew Berry telling me at the Combine, a future in which Myles Garrett is not playing for the Browns. That's not a future that we want to be in. So here's what happened. Garrett reached out to Jimmy Haslam, requested a meeting with the owner, according to Tom Pelissero's sources, and Haslam said no. Now, my understanding is the reason that Haslam said no here is we know what the issues are. We know about the communication between your agent and Andrew Berry, our general manager, and our organization, the communication both sides. You need to go to Andrew Berry on this. And Haslam does, full trust in Berry to handle this situation, and basically redirected Garrett and his agent to Berry in this situation, saying, you're not going to go around the general manager and come to me to get this thing done. So this one is going to be a standoff. That's going to take a while. We've been saying that from the beginning. This is something that could last through the spring, into the summer, perhaps into the regular season. We'll see where it goes. But the Browns have made it clear they're not interested in trading Myles Garrett. They're not interested in having conversations about trading Myles Garrett with other teams. And Jimmy Haslam's not interested in having a conversation with Garrett about the situation that doesn't include the general manager, Andrew Berry. So that's where we stand. This continues to unfold.
And again, I think that's the absolute right move by Jimmy Haslam. You're in negotiations with him. Andrew Berry is the voice for the organization in those negotiations, and Jimmy Haslam should allow Andrew Berry to be that voice. Plenty of talk post-Combine about Shedeur Sanders and how he presented himself and all those kind of things that have, in some ways and in some, if you listen to the reports coming out of the Combine, that have forced Shedeur Sanders to slip down. Here's Dion, his dad, and Shedeur about those reports.
Why are you the only kid they hate on? Why are you the only kid in the draft, potential first picks or whatever pick, that they hate on? Why are you the only one?
Because you prime time.
No, because they want you to slide to their team. It's game.
It's
game. But we know the game. We Sanders, baby.
All right. Again, it's, as we refer to it, it's silly season, so we will find out come draft time. Is that talk real, or is it so they hope Sanders slides to somebody? In addition to quarterback, the Browns will definitely be in the market for a running back in the draft. Field Yates, ESPN's draft analyst from First Draft, on a running back whose performance on the Combine might have cost him to slide down the draft board a little bit.
Caleb Johnson from Iowa was a great player, Greeny. He really is. But the fact of the matter is, in this loaded running back class, the difference between a 4.57 40, what he ran, and maybe a 4.47 40, which a player like Quinshon Judkins, I believe, was actually 4.48, could be how a guy leapfrogs others, right? I thought there was a chance that Caleb Johnson could be a top 40 draft pick. Just don't know if 4.57, despite the fact that he would be a hand-in-glove fit for a zone scheme offense that could run some of the same concepts that he thrived in during his time at Iowa, I just don't know if he goes in that top 40 selections, maybe more towards the back end of round 2 or even the early portion of round 3. Some of the other running backs that were at the Combine that performed, including Omarion Hampton, he was terrific. We saw Ashton Jeanty only do the measurements. He doesn't have to worry about it, but Trayvon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins amongst the names that could be ahead of Caleb Johnson now on some teams' boards. I know that it's just one number. That being said, there's not a ton of running backs who are high-level players in the NFL that are unquestioned starters that also ran a 4.57 40. Really solid prospect, but I do think in this class that's going to impact his standing.
Well, the other thing that I would say is it depends on what he runs in the 40 at his pro day. If I'm him, I run that 40 again at pro day, and we'll see if he can get it back in the range where everybody thought it would be. Another position that the Browns will likely look to fill at some point in the draft is tight end. Field Yates, again from ESPN's First Draft, talking about a guy who has risen up the boards.
Mason Taylor, the son of Jason Taylor, was awesome during the on-field workout at the Combine. This guy's huge. He's 250 pounds. He blocks. He holds up very well in that phase of the game. He's one of the most natural hands catchers in this entire class. He didn't run. I don't think he would have been a 4.51 guy, but he's fast enough to me. He makes contested catches, which, by the way, you just saw one right there. He's powerful. He's got really good size. I think he's going to be terrific in the red zone as well. I think Mason Taylor will be the third tight end drafted by the time we get to April 20, probably 25th. That would be day 2 of the NFL draft. It's him and Elijah Arroyo. I think that Arroyo has higher upside because of the athletic ceiling that he brings to the table, that nearly 17 yards per catch average. But Mason Taylor, just a darn good football player who had to wait his turn because, of course, LSU had those incredible receivers prior to this past season with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. lighting the NFL on fire as rookies. Mason Taylor was really solid this past season. I think he is going to be a quarterback's best friend right away wherever he gets drafted.
Also a bigger guy, and in what we believe will be more 2 tight end sets in Kevin Stefanski's offense, could be a factor, blocking and in the receiving game as well. Some news from around the NFL relative to guys getting let go. The Commanders have informed 2-time Pro Bowler defensive tackle Jonathan Allen that he is being released. They allows Allen to hit free agency a little bit earlier, and again, that legalized tampering starts on Monday. The Titans have also released edge rusher Harold Landry, a rumored move, so a guy that can get after the quarterback. The Titans release Harold Landry, and again, legalized tampering where teams can talk to the parameters of contract agreement with teams or with players will begin tomorrow. Relative to the weekend, Monday. All right, the Cavs put a 12-game winning streak on the line tonight when they face Charlotte. In Charlotte, they will face the Hornets, one of the worst teams in the NBA. It should be a game that the Cavs come out and dominate. Former NBA big man Kendrick Perkins on what he sees the Cavs as a playoff contender and where the questions that he has about him come playoff time.
The Cavs, they do have the roster. They have the star power. They have the bigs. They have the coaching staff. They have everything, right? And I love that game last night because it put them to the test, right? The more of those games they can have, the better it's going to prepare them for the postseason. And I'm talking about when it becomes a possession by possession in the fourth, where they're forced to get stops. Down the stretch, my biggest concern is, what is their go-to action going to be? Who's going to be the 2-man game? I saw it when I was with Cleveland with LeBron and Kyrie. I saw it when I was with OKC with KD and Russ. Saw it when I was in Boston with Paul and KG. That's what I want to see out of the Cavs. I want to see more of Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell down the stretch in the 2-man game like we saw with Jokic and Jamal Murray.
Yeah, I get all of that, and the answer would be if they want to take Mobley away, Allen can fill up. You also have DeAndre Hunter. So there are options which are really important when you look at matchups relative to different playoff series. Let's turn our attention to the Guardians. Pretty good pitching performance by Tanner Bybee, his first performance of the spring, and he looked really good. Went 3 innings, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts, and a walk in his first outing this spring. Also yesterday, Doug Nikhazy, 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 6 strikeouts. So for the spring, Nikhazy, 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, no earned runs, 10 strikeouts, and 2 walks. That covers 3 appearances. So Nikhazy trying to earn a spot either. He's left-handed, so either in the rotation or as a long relief type matchup guy in the bullpen, and Nikhazy just keeps getting guys out. It's a good way to earn a spot on the big league roster. Gavin Williams also, his last outing, 2 1/3, gave up 3 hits, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, and a walk for the spring. 2 appearances. Gavin Williams has now gone 4 1/3, with 3 hits, 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts, and just 1 walk in 2 appearances. Craig Albernez, the Guardians associate manager, talked about what he's seen from Gavin Williams this spring.
The Gavin that's been thrown this spring training is the Gavin that everyone in this organization has been raving about. Like obviously last year, he hurt his elbow wherever it was in spring training, so he was playing catch up the whole year. But to see him this year attack the goals that the pitching group had for him and go out there and implement it, it's awesome to see. I think his fastball has as much life as it ever has. The slider looks great, curveball. He's pounding the strike zone. And it's funny, like 2 starts ago, he didn't allow a base runner. And then it was good to see when he had to pitch out of the stretch, kind of how everything looked, and it looked great too. I know the pitching group did a lot of work. Gavin's been doing a lot of work, so it's just good to see all that work kind of on full display for us. You definitely want more separation with his pitchers, just because he has the ability to do it. But also his fastball, when it's right, like you see it now, it's like it's 98, like 96, 98, but also has an extra like hop and carry to it. So those two work together. Like it's almost like you think about like the pitchers working, it's like an ecosystem type deal. So if your fastball's off, it's going to affect the rest of your arsenal as well, right? So him, like they've been attacking his delivery, like he's physically he's in a really, really good place. And now it's just building off that, just like we talk about Tanner, like get better each day. It's the same thing with Gavin.
And again, you get Bybee, Williams, and Luis Ortiz, young starters who kind of take that next step. That's the way the Guardians contend again and are a factor in the American League. Starting pitching has been good. We'll need to continue to do so. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We turn our attention to the Browns. G. Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and the Barbershop straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
With the new Monopoly Bonus Spectacular family of scratch-offs from the Ohio Lottery, you can uncover a spectacular amount of winnings. With 5 games from $1 to 20, multipliers from 5 times to 100 times, over $113 million in total cash prizes and chance bonuses. What you find under a greenhouse could change everything.
We turn our attention to the Browns and dive a little bit deeper on the whole Myles Garrett, Jimmy Haslam not talking to him situation. Kyle Brandt, NFL Network Good Morning Football, with his take on Jimmy Haslam declining to meet with Myles Garrett at his request.
It's not a great headline because if you are the face of the company, as Myles Garrett is, and you want to speak to the man who runs the company at this crossroads, you'd like to see that happens, especially since maybe that conversation begins, if you're Myles Garrett, by saying, Mr. Haslam, I have loved being a Brown. I have given you 8 fantastic years, during which time you have given me 16 starting quarterbacks that have started for the team that I'm carrying. You guys pursue quarterbacks more than I do. So maybe you can understand why after 8 years, I might want to go somewhere else. And the part about, he's going to miss games and all that, he's dug in, he's got conviction. Do the Browns really want to go through that? After what they went through last year, after they've gone through with Watson, do you want to start training camp where the face of your company is holding out? Or do you want to start training camp maybe and look at all these fresh new players that we brought in, through free agency, but also with draft picks or future draft picks that we're going to get next year? It's fresh. It's new. It's a little bit like what the Commanders had going on. Save the ownership change. It's a fresh start. I still think, why would the Browns not even consider trading him? 8 years in, starting season 9. The fact is, Myles Garrett is probably on the backside of his prime.
As always, it's interesting. Let's welcome in G. Bush, Ultimate Cleveland Sports. So G. Bush, before we get rolling with that, one more time. If they trade Myles Garrett before the draft, they have to find a way to get under the salary cap. It's a $36 million dead cap hit. They're roughly $12 million under the cap right now. So you'd have to find $24 million. That means Before you trade Myles Garrett, you probably have to get rid of Jack Conklin, maybe Denzel Ward, possibly Joel Bitonio, and maybe Greg Newsome. That'll get you in the neighborhood of $24 million if you add the cap up. Again, you can say all these things about, they can't do that to him. It's a financial thing where they almost have to do that to him.
Yeah, look, and don't get it twisted. Myles Garrett understands that if he's able to go and get himself traded, that's why he started talking about this all back at the end of the season around the Super Bowl. Is because he wanted to give them an opportunity in a time period where you can get yourself moved in a space and time where you have more suitors available. So think about it. Free agency is coming up here, next week? Guys are going to be filling roster spots. Guys are going to be on the prowl. Contenders, teams that he's been rumored to go to, the Eagles, the Commanders. All those teams are going to have to figure out, hey, listen, if Myles is not going to go before the draft, we need to start filling in some of these holes if we're not going to draft these positions. So Myles knows that the contenders and the teams that he wants to go to, those guys may be more willing to give up assets in terms of they can get the deal done now because, hey, if you dangle a Myles Garrett trade in front of an owner, is that more I guess lucrative? Is that more enticing than drafting some unknown kid? Sure, you might get a team to give you a couple number ones, but guess what? It's going to happen. He's not going to be able to be moved because, as we talked about it, they just had to restructure Deshaun Watson's contract. That's like the 90th time. I don't even know. Like, they restructured his contract so much. I'm like, did y'all finish paying him yet? Because they keep restructuring, and they got their little measly $12.9 million operating. Now, I made the joke. I said that's enough to pay the groundskeepers and some premium coffee in the executive suites. Other than that, 12.9 ain't getting it done.
Yep.
And so Myles is gonna have to wait until sometime in the summer. And the most interesting thing about this is this. The interesting thing isn't Myles Garrett. The interesting part of this situation is what Jimmy Haslam said. Because Jimmy said, look, hey, talk to AB. Now, he put it, Kyle put it lightly. He put it in the right light. Myles Garrett is the face of the franchise. Jimmy Haslam has been known to be very opinionated and even go to on putting his opinion on the table and even go into meddling a little bit. So for him to say that, and him to say, you know what? I'm cool. Let AB handle it. I got full faith in him. It leads me to say there's a little more confidence in Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski than one let on. And is this a situation where maybe we made this up? Maybe they not on the hot seat like that. Maybe they're, because if you tell Myles Garrett when he is really hot about getting up out of here and you say, nah, I'm cool. Me and D aren't going to meet with you. Take that we negotiate through our general manager. That says that's a lot of faith in your general manager, given the fact that he's coming off the Deshaun Watson situation, and that may be they might have signed that silent peace treaty that said they might have not been on a Watson trade like that. Maybe it might have been Jimmy Haslam who said, let's do it, or Deeper Dessa, because guess what? He seems confident and content with letting this thing roll out right past the draft on into the season.
The other thing is, and you and I were talking about this beforehand, it's absolutely the right thing to do. You're in negotiations with Myles Garrett. There's one voice. You don't need 3, 4, 5 voices, and anybody that thinks otherwise doesn't understand how negotiations go. Right now, what he said is, Andrew Berry's our voice. And that, right there, that shuts down some of the dysfunction and nonsense before it gets going.
And they may tell him like this. I think this thing, if I had a crystal ball, I would say, look, they may give him permission to say, hey, Myles, you and your agent, if you guys want out so bad, go out and find us the best deal possible.
Yeah.
And you go out and find us a deal that may work for us. We'll sign off on it. But other than that, you're under contract for 2 years. I do believe that Myles has played his last down in Cleveland. However, the Cleveland Browns are in the business of not getting fleeced 2 times in a row. The Deshaun Watson thing is already on the table. They plan on fleecing somebody else now. They got to get some of them picks back.
All right. This is from ESPN. As you mentioned, free agency begins with all the talk Monday. These are bold predictions, and they say the Browns will sign running back J.K. Dobbins and find a way to retain Nick Chubb. I don't mind either of those. I'd still want a couple youngins, though. Give me a couple from this draft class, but J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb, that's a start of a room.
Listen, I like this. See, not only have we often talked about on this program stockpiling brand new quarterback rooms, now that we've kind of, settled in on we're getting the quarterback and figuring out who's going to be the bridge quarterback. That's all we need to figure out. We need to figure out this running back room. And one of the things is, listen, I know Mary Kay reported on it, but listen, if you can find a way to get Nick Chubb back in the building, I'm telling you, people, he'll be better in 2 years. He'll be better in 2 years after his injury. I'm telling you right now, he'll be determined. And think about it. At worst, Nick Chubb is think about it. If Nick Chubb is your power back and he only getting 12 carries a game and he's goal line back, well, of course I take that. Give me J.K. Dobbins. But here, due to their injury history, just like you just said, I need me one of them thoroughbreds. I need me one. Listen, if it's Judkins, if it's not, and I'll tell you what, I'm crazy when it comes to this. I was just driving into work and I said, if Ashton Genty wants to fall below 15 or 20, I have no problem moving up to take him. If you could tell me I could get me a quarterback and I could get Ashton Genty as well. If he fall past 15, I got 2 third-round picks in my back pocket. I got some 4s just to move up, and I got that 33rd pick, the first pick in the second round. I'm looking for hardcore running back. They got great backs, man. The kid out of North Carolina, the kid from Iowa, looks like he's going to be a guy that's going to be a promising young back. 2 backs, Scatterboo. They got a lot of guys, but I'm going to tell you what, Genty is special. He is it's very rare that you get a guy that's in the first round that shows you power, speed, run over you, run past you, catch the football. If you can somehow go up and get that kid too, that's a way to turn the page for Cleveland Browns. I think we forget all about last season. Yeah,
I'm with you. If you can find a way to get Genty mid to late first round, he's going to be really good. So this is interesting as well. It's from the 33rd team. Those are former NFL executive types and scouts. 5 most underrated players heading into legal tampering, which starts Monday. They go wide receiver Marquise Brown, Rico Dowdle. That's an interesting running back. Just not 27 yet. Marquise Brown's 27.7, so he's 27 and a half. Sherwood, Blackman, safety and offensive tackle, Dan Moore. Dan Moore's 26. Yeah. Any of those guys intrigue you? And again, the Browns aren't going to get the sexy names because they just don't have money.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get the name that jumps out to you is Marquise Brown. One of the things we've been trying to find is a speedster around here. He's a guy that can spread the field, and it makes more. See, it'll tell me what the Cleveland Browns would do. If they say we're gonna bring back Joe Flacco, well then I know you're gonna be vertical, and then you start to look at guys like Hollywood Brown. I listen. I like the tackle. I like Dan Moore. I like him a lot. The only problem I don't know is how the Browns feel about their tackle room. Conklin is one of the names that we talk about, and they would have to restructure or move him in order to move Myles Garrett or some other things. So you might look at it. DeJuan Jones is playing the left side. Maybe they want to save some more, but then again, does that really save some more depending on what they're offering Dan Moore and what he wants? Because Conklin is pretty expensive. You look at the offensive line between Joe Bitonio, who just opted back in, Ethan Pochich and Wyatt Teller. Those guys are pretty expensive. So I think the Browns aren't going. And by the way, the linebacker on that list sounds pretty good too, because I've come to the conclusion after listening to Andrew Berry, and it's sad to say, the likelihood of JOK playing this year is very slim to none. And at this point, we need to be worried about his long-term health, of whether or not he's going to be forced to retire, because I have heard nothing from Mary Kay. I've heard nothing from any other sources. They talked about him going to get other special opinions and further opinions. And when you're dealing with a neck injury, and you still have to tackle people with your shoulders,
Yep.
and you're already undersized. It just looks like one of those situations where you're gonna have to probably look at linebacker a little bit too, which is a tremendous hit from a defense that may not have Myles Garrett and JOK, who you were building around, and that's a huge blow.
All right, so before we go to break, take a look at this. This is kind of interesting. It's from Jack Duffin. He's looking back at some of Andrew Berry's signings, and just 4 free agents have been over $10 million a year. Not including re-signings like Smith, Zadarius. So you got Tomlinson, 14.25, Conklin, 14, John Johnson, ooh, that one was bad, 11.25, and Austin Hooper, 10.5. So Andrew Berry will likely make moves in free agency because you have to upgrade the roster, but they're going to be the secondary guys that are backloaded with contracts, low first year. They're not going to be the splashy moves.
No, and nor should they, because right now, what you need from Andrew Berry is some of those picks from the last 3 or 4 drafts that you took to start taking place and to start making moves. Hey, maybe not Cedric Tillman. Maybe he's somebody. Maybe Zach Zenner steps up and becomes somebody. Maybe DeJuan Jones is the Pro Bowler that you needed on the left hand side. Thrash. You look at some of the guys that they got in the secondary. Cam Mitchell, is he good enough to take over for Greg Newsome? Even at safety, Juan Thornhill's not going to be here. Do you have does a DeAnthony Bell want to take over a spot? There's lots of guys. Bookie Watson out of Mississippi State. There's some guys that's on the roster that you guys have drafted, and to get to where you guys want to go, you're going to need to have a situation where you're having guys step up and take those roster spots because, as you can see, you can't reload all the time when it comes to your salary cap. You can't just reload with these free agents. And sometimes those free agents turn out to be like John Johnson or Juan Thornhill and don't give you very much. So those are the positions and some of the groups that you're going to need to have some growth from within your young ranks, and that's what you're going to have to look forward to because this year, like I said before, you're going to get some second-tier guys, maybe some guys to fill some holes, but in general, it's not going to be, first, the tampering period. Don't even worry about that because the Browns don't got enough to tamper with nobody. All the guys we want know exactly where they want to go or what type of money they're getting. So we don't have to worry about them first few hours of tampering.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside to take a quick time out. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back with G. Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and the Barber Shop. We've talked a little bit about wide receiver. You've got Jerry Jeudy, you've got Cedric Tillman, then you have a lot of question marks. So here are some notable free agents. It will be interesting. Not all these guys will get big money. Top on the list, you got Elijah Moore. Browns know what he can potentially give them. Has been kind of a disappointment since they traded for him. Keenan Allen, an older guy, you might get a look at him. You go to the next page, Hollywood Brown probably out of their price range. Deontay Johnson kind of failed in a couple of spots last year. Mike Williams probably would be in their price range. Darius Slayton allegedly will have a pretty big market from what you hear. You look at any of those. Do any of those make sense that can fit with the limited cap resources?
Those names look like my waiver wire for 4 years ago for my fantasy leagues and Sports4CLE. Listen, Darius Slayton is always available. Elijah Moore is on the waiver wire. He's available. I'm trying to get streaming play out of him. Man, at this point, you might as well go ahead with some of your young guys. I mean, it's almost to a point where it's like, okay, if you're going to get Robert Woods, I mean, do you want why not give Jamari Thrash an opportunity to do something? If you're going to go out there and get a guy like, you know what I'm saying, DeAndre Hopkins, and he didn't really show you anything out in Kansas City, you know, how great is he going to be in Cleveland? I don't know, especially given the fact that, you know, we don't really necessarily know who the quarterback's going to be. Like we don't. Are you going to be starting a rookie? Is it going to be a Kirk Cousins type? You know, a receiver? What are you doing at running back? So there's a lot of different things. I'm guessing if they want to bring one of those names in for some, you know, just to solidify it, I ain't got a problem with it, because you know next year it's all about trying to figure out how to make Sundays fun again. Like you know, next year is not going to be about the Browns being in no situation to be winning championships or nothing like that. It's about figuring out who's the quarterback, putting a nice system around him. You know, passing the torch from Nick Chubb to another running back, getting back to the identity that, you know, Stefanski wants to run. And to do that, you know, you just need something to pass the time a little bit. And to be frank, you know, if you get one of those receivers, it's one less hole you got to fill. You might be able to start off a little bit better. Those guys may give you 1 to 2 more wins, given the fact that now you have 2 bona fide, professional receivers outside. If you say you do want to go with a Flacco or Jacoby Brissett, so it's more palatable. It's more easy to watch. It's one of those things where it gives you a little more stability. So I wouldn't mind if they went out and took. I think Hollywood has a lot of upside. I think Keenan Allen has something left, but he's been injury prone the last couple of years. You know, a lot of those guys, Goodwin, injury prone. A lot of those guys have been. All of them have some flaws. Deontay Johnson, I thought, was going to be on an upward trajectory when he was still playing with a younger player with Ben Roethlisberger, but he's kind of flamed out in a couple of places. But for me, I'd take a look at a couple of those guys and see what they had, and if they feel like they can, you know, add something to the receiver room, I wouldn't be mad at it.
All right, so we keep talking quarterback. A name that has been recently linked by a couple of national guys to the Browns, Carson Wentz. ESPN Cleveland with their reaction to Wentz to the Browns.
Carson Wentz here, how would you feel?
Meh. Like, I'm supposed to get excited about Carson Wentz. He's been with 5 teams in 5 years. This would be the 6th team in 6 years.
How many games has he played in the last 2 years?
He played in 5, but Chris, he's only thrown, you know, I don't know, 40 passes or something.
Riz, you want to have the rust conversation about Carson Wentz
Chris,
this
I'm
offseason?
Don't.
No, I'm not.
You're still mad at me for Chubb.
No, I'm not. I'm not directing this at you. I'm just saying. I'm looking at you, so I said your name.
Carson Wentz over here.
Okay, but that's my point. Like,
that's what they're hearing.
Got to give Carson more time.
I would take Daniel Jones in a heartbeat.
Gee, Bush, I kind of feel the same way. I play that because that's what I thought when I heard Carson Wentz, and I agree. I would take Daniel Jones quickly.
You know, listen. I take Flacco. I take if you can give me Kirk Cousins. People say Kirk Cousins be hurt. I don't know what they're doing with this contract. They got to cut him and all the other stuff. Something tells me, like, if I was just them, I would just get a quarterback. See, I think the Cleveland Browns need to move hurriedly and move a lot of things past them. First day, what I would do is I would name a quarterback. I would either get Flacco, I would get Jacoby Brissett, whoever it's going to be. Whether it's, I don't know how much Daniel Jones wants, but I'd name somebody immediately. When you're looking at Carson Wentz, if you talk about playing Carson Wentz, I start the rookie. If it was between Carson Wentz and the young guy, I'd just start the rookie and just say, you know what, we just gonna go out here and we're gonna fight this one out, man. At least if I hit lightning in a bottle, I'll be all right. But Carson Wentz is not gonna do anything for your fan base. Actually, be truthful, that's a good way of starting one in something, to be truthful. and what you can't do with Myles Garrett, like, holding out, and Deshaun Watson still on the team and Chubb ain't there, that's a recipe for disaster. At least you can have a scapegoat or have a shiny object with a young quarterback. Be like, look, he's just young. Just seeing what he's about. But Carson Wentz, no.
I'm with you. All right, so I asked you this with the draft last year. Give me a home run scenario for Andrew Berry. How does he how does he pull a rabbit out of a hat and make this roster look better heading into the draft even?
I think this is the way I go. Home run. So home run is they figure out Nick Chubb goes to the open market, figures out there ain't much out there for me. It's not much out there. Comes back, they sign Nick Chubb. The Cleveland Browns then make a trade. Not even a trade. They go back to free agency. You know what they say? We got lightning in a bottle once. Let's go ahead and run that back. We go get Flaccavelli, Joe Flacco again. Bring him back. That buys you at least 6 weeks because people will swear up and down that Flacco was playing at the MVP level. We'll just let them believe that. We're going to get Flacco to come on back. So now you got this. And then what you're going to do, you're going to stay at 2, and you're going to take whichever quarterback is available. But in this scenario, the Tennessee Titans do the unthinkable. They draft a defensive lineman, like that makes sense. They get Abdul Carter. We stay at 2, get Cam Ward, and then we people is excited. We got the quarterback of the future and the best quarterback in this draft. And then wait, hold on. People say you can't draft a running back in round 1. They lied to you, people. Ashton Genty falls past 17. The Cleveland Browns have the 33rd pick. They jump up. Not only do they jump up in the first round. They take Ashton Genty, giving them 2 players with 5 years of control, basically taking up his whole prime. And then they do what we've been talking about from Jump Street. Will Howard is laying around in the 4th round, and the Cleveland Browns say, listen, 2 is better than 1. Let me grab another quarterback. You got Will Howard now, and so now you got a backup plan. At quarterback, you got a whole new quarterback room. You got Flacco, you got Cam Ward, you got Will Howard, you still brought Chubb back, and you got the best running back in the game, Ashton Genty. If they do that, watch out. Watch out. It ain't far-fetched. I'm not going to say they win 9 games or nothing, but that is a very exciting place to start with. And by the way, Myles Garrett might say, well, look, I didn't know you was bringing back Flacco and getting all this other stuff. So I might be actually interested in just taking your money and staying put.
It'll be interesting. You find a way to get Cam Ward and Ashton Genty, I got that. You hit it out of the park. So I asked for a home run. You knocked one out of the park. I'm with you. Good.
Grand slam right there. You know, when these other guys come up here and you ask them the same question, you got to tell them, G. Bush has been in the league. He hit his grand slam. If you got to do better than that.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Appreciate it.
All right, G. Bush, make sure you check him out. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. You can catch that 11 to 1 Monday through Friday. Also, the Barbershop on the weekends. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report, Barking Browns podcast. We're still talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's take a look at Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report's latest mock draft. So he has the Browns trading up to number 1, sending picks 294, 105, and 180 to the Titans for the first pick overall. And the Browns making sure that they get the quarterback, Cam Ward, coming back at 33, a tight end, Colston Loveland, 67, left tackle from West Virginia, Wyatt Milam. Walker, an edge rusher. You got Jordan James, Ty Robinson, and you see the rest of the drafts. Let's welcome in Jacob Roach. That is his mock draft. He's from the Orange and Brown Report as well as the Barking Browns podcast. So, Jacob, you do the trade to make sure you get number 1 overall. I'm guessing in your mind there's a pretty big difference between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders then.
Yeah, there's a pretty big significant gap there for me, kind of a drop off. I'm working right now on my updated overall rankings. Now that the combine is out and done, I'll have a top 100 up for the website in the next week or two. But in my top 50 rankings, I had Cam Ward at 7 and Shedeur down at 24 overall. So there's a pretty wide gap there. I've only got like 15 first round grades. So if that tells you anything, I don't even have a first round grade on Shedeur Sanders at this point, although I understand the positional value and moving some things up there. But to me, it's a one quarterback draft until you get into the second tier. You get into your Will Howards, your Jackson Darts, and things like that. So if you're going to get aggressive, you want that guy for sure. I think it has to be Cam Ward, or you're just content with kind of riding that second tier of quarterback.
Let's talk about the next couple of picks. You've got Colston Loveland, tight end from Michigan, and then a left tackle, Milam from West Virginia. What do you like about those guys?
Colston Loveland is kind of a dynamic playmaker. I think he's more of a wide receiver in a tight end's body. Just has some refinement issues that he needs to work on with his blocking, but he has done plenty of blocking. As we know, he's a part of that Michigan offense that won the national championship in 2023, and they ran the football a lot. So he can be an inline guy. He can split out in the slot. But I think if you go and you get your quarterback, making sure he has weapons and making sure you set him up for success, it's pivotal, especially if you're giving up, multiple picks to move up and make sure you get that guy like I did in this situation. And I think Colston Loveland just needs to refine some things as a blocker. But I think he's a really nice polished route runner, understands how to attack zone coverage. If you make him the number 2 behind David Njoku and you add, of course, Jerry Jeudy and any other acquisitions you might make, I think you really set your quarterback up for success, and they got to find their new left tackle. I know that people want to put DeJuan Jones out there. I want to put DeJuan Jones out there, but the reality is he's an atrocious run blocker. We have not seen him be successful at that at all. He was fine as a left tackle in pass protection, but I think we kind of glorified what he did because of how bad the other guys had been playing at left tackle, that I think, we kind of forget that he was just kind of okay out there. And he's had 2 season-ending injuries and had some struggles with his weight. So Wyatt Milam's that kind of mauler mentality. Some people, he's got the sub 34-inch arms. They want to move him in to guard, and maybe that ends up happening down the road. But he's kind of like Wyatt Teller, but in at the left tackle position. And I think he would fit in really well in this offense.
So this one's from your mailbag. You're sitting at 33, so first pick of the second round for the Browns. Alec Iomanner, wide receiver, Stanford. Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, and Xavier Watts, all on the board. But will be gone by the next pick the Browns make. Which one of those guys you take?
I think I end up with Iomanner, the wide receiver from Stanford. That was a really tough one when I was writing that mailbag up. I always get excited when I get some questions like that really, really like make me sit there and stare at the screen for a while. And what I came back to in that situations is that I think, you had a safety, a running back, and a tight end as the other options. I think those positions are deeper than the wide receiver position. I like some of these depth players that you can get in maybe day 3 or late day 2 at wide receiver. But I think once you get about past Alec Iomanner, who's my probably wide receiver 6, once I get my updated rankings done, I think there starts to become a significant drop off. I think tight end has a ton of really good under raw prospects that need developed a little bit, but have a lot of really nice traits and upside. So I'm okay with waiting for that. This running back class, every time I watch it go out and perform, I just updated my top 20 that I'm working on, and I left some names off there that hurt me. That's how deep this class is. I was like, I don't even have a place to put Taj Brooks from Texas Tech, and I think he's really good, So if you're really looking at that, I think running back, I love Omarion Hampton. I love Caleb Johnson, those guys at the top, but I'm like, I definitely can get one of those here a little bit later on. And then at safety, I think it's kind of the same thing. You can get a little bit better depth there than there is a wide receiver.
So, again, from your mailbag, what quarterback do you think helped himself the most at the Combine?
I think I was a little controversial on this because I heard some other people go a different direction. I liked what Jalen Milroe did from Alabama, and not necessarily because he had the best performance at the combine, because I think Jackson Dart and Kyle McCord outperformed him, because I think both of those guys had some really good performances at the combine, but because you saw significant improvements from the Senior Bowl when Milroe struggled. It was evident when we watched the practices and through the game when Jalen Milroe was down in Mobile, Alabama, that he had heard people talk about he's got some footwork issues, he's got some mechanics issues with his throws, that he needs to fix some of these things and try to clean them up and work on them. And he looked like he was very nervous and pressing in Mobile, and that he was trying to do a bunch of different things and correct everything at once, and it just came out really bad. Well, you can tell in that month between that and when he got to the combine that he's been in the lab, that he's been out there working on his mechanics, his footwork. I thought he looked a lot more clean, a lot more under control and confident. It's still got a way to go, but when you're talking about a guy that you're betting on tremendous traits and physical upside, you want to see him progress. And I thought Milroe did that, so I really enjoyed his performance.
All right, let me ask you this. If you're sitting here and what is a home run scenario for Andrew Berry? Give me three guys, and don't make it Abdul Carter, Travis Henry, and Cam Ward. Give me three guys that legitimately spaced out where they pick that you think, man, Andrew Berry got it right this year.
If like Eli Manor or Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas, if those guys are there kind of in that 33 range, and you get that to go with, if you took a quarterback in the first round or not, but like you get one of those guys to help either a first round quarterback or a late round quarterback and pair with Jerry Jeudy, those two wide receivers I think would be really good. If you were able to get, we look at some of these offensive tackles, if Josh Simmons falls a little bit, that would be just insane if they were able to potentially trade up and get one of those guys. When I look at the running back position, if he could find a way to get like Devin Neal from Kansas in like the third or fourth round, or get one of the Ohio State guys in the third round, and kind of, to me, it's like, okay, give me an offensive lineman, maybe a Gray Zabel, maybe Josh Connerly or Josh Simmons there towards the end of the first round. Then get me like Devin Neal in the third or fourth round. And then maybe like an edge rusher like David Walker, who's had a ton of production at a small school in Central Arkansas. Like a haul like that, I think would be kind of knock it out of the park. If you could get impact players that fit your scheme on the offensive line, the running back position or wide receiver, and then an edge rusher, just where those really big premium positions, I think that would be really good.
Yeah, when I look at the roster, they need some playmakers on offense. They just do. Mm-hmm. You need guys that when they have the ball in their hands, it's like, Before I let you go, who is somebody, if they're there at 33, Browns have to take them? Just have to take them.
I think it's Matthew Golden, the Texas wide receiver, because there is a lot of buzz after he goes out and did what he did at the combine. I wrote a profile up on him for the OBR on Tuesday. This dude, he goes out there, runs a 4.29, has just ridiculous speed. He's a little bit undersized, like or sub 200 pounds around there, but like he can climb the ladder, has the athleticism and the body control. There's some clips that I put together in that article where you see this dude, Quinn Ewers. He beats a guy by 10 yards. Quinn Ewers underthrows it. He slams on the brake. It slams on that 4.3 speed, comes to a stop, comes back, leaps up, grabs it, and takes off again. And that's on his tape multiple times. He was not their primary guy towards the beginning of the year. They were trying to get Isaiah Bond going, and that didn't work. I've heard from Kyle Krabs has said it. A friend of mine, Bill Sparks, has said it. A lot of people are putting Matthew Golden now up near wide receiver 1. Just there's a lot of conversations, but he's only got that one real year of productivity. If he falls to 33 and he's sitting there, especially if you've already got your quarterback and you're able to get a weapon like that with Jerry Jeudy, with David Njoku, I think that would be just that. I could die happy then.
Jacob Roach, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jacob.
Thanks, guys.
Jacob Roach, make sure you check him out. Orange and Brown Report. He referenced a couple of articles. Go check them out. Golden, also Hampton, a couple of the skill position guys Again, Orange and Brown Report and the Barking Browns podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Lance Reisland, film breakdown, video analysis of some of the free agents that are on the Browns' radar. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Full Court Action is a half hour devoted exclusively to men's and women's basketball from across the Mid-American Conference. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Bacon. Join me at 6:30 Tuesday nights, and we'll meet the coaches and players from the Mid-American Conference who are making an impact in basketball. Full Court Action will spotlight the top plays and performances from all across the Mid-American Conference with some historical action as well. Catch Full Court Action Tuesday nights at 6:30 on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Time for a film breakdown, video analysis. We're going to look at some free agents that might make sense for the Browns with legalized negotiating available to the Browns and the rest of the NFL coming up Monday. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Lance, we'll start out with some quarterbacks and some fits. Browns do have some money under the cap after redoing Deshaun Watson's contract earlier in the week, and they probably will get some more. But first guy is no surprise. Kirk Cousins is a guy that almost everybody thinks fits with the Browns. Take us through what you see when you look at Kirk Cousins relative to Kevin Stefanski's offense.
What we're going to see here is just as a boot, right? So the Kevin Stefanski runs the boot where you're going to get 3 levels, and then they do some stuff off it where you're going to anticipate the 3 levels, and this is Adam Thielen going back the other way. But the reason this clip is so important is because of what he does. Again, now you get 2 tight ends set, and you're going to get a one-on-one. So again, multiple tight ends to create the matchups that you want, which is something that Kevin Stefanski really likes. Going back to this first clip, you're going to see roll, and then Thielen's going to go the other way, which is what Stefanski likes to do. And then the second one is 12 personnel, which we all know Coach likes. So what it does is if you look at the defense, it makes them bring linebackers in, so they got 8 in the box, which creates one-on-ones outside. So those athletic tight ends that can both block and get split out depending on what the defense gives them. Excuse me. Now, the thing you like about him is that 2018-2019 were Kirk Cousins' best year, in my opinion, and that's when Kevin Stefanski was his coach. His QB coach in 18, his offensive coordinator in 19. Threw for 3,600 yards, bunch of touchdowns. They also had Dalvin Cook, who had 1,000 yards. They had Diggs, who had 1,000 yards. What it tells you is the balance that Kevin Stefanski likes to have, and that Kirk Cousins understands the scheme and what they're trying to do. It's not a pass-happy scheme. It's not a run-happy scheme. It's what does the defense give us, and we can take that because we have talent at all those positions. So for me, if you're looking for a bridge guy, I like some of the other guys well, but this is my number one guy. He was playing really well to the injury last year. I'm not saying he has tons of great years left in him, but he definitely can be successful, especially in a structured offense where he doesn't have to do much outside of the structure.
Yeah, and in talking to beat reporters for the Falcons, Atlanta did not do anything to tailor their offense to him. They kind of threw him in it and said, here you go. The other thing that I like about Cousins, when he was playing with Kevin Stefanski, he didn't turn the ball over a ton. And that's been a problem for the Browns, not only last year, but the year before that as well.
Well, that speaks to the structure, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, check the ball down, get rid of the football. There's not going to be a lot of things that are improvised where you're holding on to the ball a long time. You know, those quarterbacks that are all or nothing, it goes like the Cam Ward, right? It's you can be an A+, but you can also be an F because of that improvisation. Now, if you are a B or a C, that's okay too, as long as you stay there and you don't get any lower. And that's what happens with inside structure. That's why Kevin Stefanski had so much success with Flacco and Jameis if he didn't turn the ball over, because it's within structure. 1, 2, 3, check the ball down, throw it away. And that's where Kevin Stefanski likes his offense. Whether you like it or not, they decided to stay with Stefanski. So a guy within structure is very important.
So the next guy that we're going to talk about, Carson Wentz, was a high draft pick, has been a backup, was with the Kansas City Chiefs this year. What do you see with Carson Wentz?
Well, you know, he's thrown for 22,000 yards, and he can make all the throws, right? He's a gamer. So the thing you like about him is that he was really successful his first 4 years in Eagles, and then he kind of fell off after that COVID year. And one of the things he struggled with is interceptions. So that 2020 year, he threw a lot of interceptions. But he's a gamer. You're going to see a couple really a nice throw here and then a nice scramble. this is what he can do very well in Kevin Stefanski's offense, because Kevin Stefanski is so important at that red zone stuff he likes to do in the red zone. So you're talking about a guy who has a ton of experience. Like I said, has thrown for 22,000 yards, 150 plus touchdowns. So he can make all the throws. He's got to protect the football. Again, within structure, I think he'll be very successful. Anytime you get a guy who is a free agent who works outside of structure. So if you look at Jameis Winston, when he throws his interceptions, it's usually because 1, 2, or 3 are covered, and then he tries to force. So if he can protect the football, again, Carson Wentz is a guy, he was so successful those first 4 years, and then he's kind of fallen off. But I think to be successful, he has to be an offense like this, where he's asked to win with, not because of.
Yeah, and to your point, you remember the knee injury that really derailed him early. So Wentz is an intriguing guy. I know a lot of Browns fans aren't. None of these guys are going to be sexy. There's a reason that the veterans are available. The next guy intrigues me as well, Daniel Jones. What do you see with Jones?
You can see here, he's another guy who can make all the throws. Great feet. He's a great athlete. Makes a ton of really good throws on film. Also does a really good job of staying in the pocket and get hit. Now, this Daniel Jones is a guy I like, and I might be in a mountain alone when it comes to Daniel Jones, but he kind of reminds me of Tim Couch in terms of really good player in college. I had a great evaluation of him coming out of Duke, and then he comes in the NFL and he absolutely gets hammered. And when you get hammered, you start to do things that are unconventional with your fundamentals and techniques. And even on that throw there, you can see his feet aren't set. He makes a great throw. That's because he's constantly getting hit. Now, I think within a structure of Kevin Stefanski's offense, he would be outstanding. He's got great feet. He's an elite athlete. He's not a good athlete at quarterback. He's an elite athlete at quarterback. Now, he's had some issues with some injuries and turning the ball over, but a lot of what's happened to Daniel Jones has been the fact that he does not have very much around him in his time, especially obviously with New York Giants. So I think he's a guy, I still think there's an upside there. I think he got out of New York in time where he wasn't too beat up. I still think he could be really successful. Is he a guy that's probably going to be an all-pro? No. But if you're talking bridge quarterback and a guy with some talent, Daniel Jones is your guy. I'm a lot higher on him than others. I think he's an outstanding talent. Needs to be in the right scheme so he could be functional.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by him. I'm with you. Do you think he fits Kevin Stefanski's scheme pretty well? That would be the question.
Well, I think athletically, because he's so athletic, I think he can do anything. And I'd be honest with you, I think he's gotten hit so much, he'd be outstanding in the scheme. Why? Because he's going to be asked to check the ball down if he doesn't have what he wants. And that's important for a guy like Daniel Jones. He's highly cognitive. He understands what he's doing. Like I said, he's got great feet, but he's not going to be asked to improvise very much. And I think that extends his career being in this type of offense.
So the next guy so those are the three quarterbacks that we're listening to. And you know, we've talked about Kirk Cousins, and I was at the Combine, and Atlanta's GM said they're not going to release him. They're comfortable paying him and leaving him on the bench as a backup. The one thing is that the GM may be comfortable with that. You're asking your owner to write a $10 million check here in a couple of days. I think it's the third or fourth day of the league year. So it's the middle to the back half of next week. If he's on the Falcons roster, it's a $10 million bonus. That's $10 million out of the owner's pocket, and you might get a 5th or a 6th round pick for him if you hold on to him. So I don't. The value doesn't equate to me relative to Kirk Cousins.
Well, and I think it would be best for everybody, right? Because he is in a scheme that wasn't very good for him, and this scheme is perfect for him. And so if you look at a guy who's a journeyman, and he's not, he's played at a really, really high level and made a ton of money in the NFL because he's played at that high level. But for him to play at that high level again or get close to that, it comes down to scheme and things around him. And the Browns seem to be kind of trying to do their best to show everyone they're not rebuilding. I think Kirk Cousins tells you that. You go Kirk Cousins, you go Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. Now you've opened some eyes that you're going to let Sanders learn, and you're going to go with Cousins. I think it's a match made in heaven.
All right, so we're going to look at a couple of non-quarterbacks. First one is the safety. Browns do need a safety. Justin Reed from the Chiefs, and Browns fans are shrieking because the last Chiefs safety we signed, Juan Thornhill, didn't work out very well. What do you see with Justin Reed? Why is he different?
Well, the thing you're going to get with Justin Reed is he's a ball hawk, right? So they need some turnovers, some guy, he's physical in the run game, he's a ball hawk in the pass game. Now, that doesn't always mean interceptions. I mean, he gets to the ball, he's very, very aggressive. From his time with the Texans to obviously with the Chiefs. So a guy like that, a guy like Andre Cisco, a guy like Harrison Smith, a guy like, who's the other guy? Jeremy Chin is a guy, excuse me. So these guys who are playmakers that can play the one hi-hat safety and then come down in the box when necessary, because obviously, you know, they have guys. Delpit can play down the free safety, but he's better down in the box. But he can rotate in there as well, being a safety guy. But Delpit's better down in the box. So let's get a free safety guy who's really, really good and can be a ball hawk. Reed being later in his career, that's what those safeties like to do. Play the middle of the field, get everybody organized. Create some turnovers with your physicality, create some turnovers being a ball hawk. But there's a number of guys, like I mentioned, Harrison Smith, these guys who can play that one hi-hat and get everybody organized and create some turnovers. The Browns, even though this defense has been really good, that's been lacking in the back half. Justin Reed is a guy who can make that happen.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Think about it. I mentioned Juan Thornhill. Before that, it was John Johnson III. So they're 0 for 2 trying to sign free safeties in free agency. All right, last one we're going to look at in this segment, Robert Spillane, a linebacker. What do you like about him and your thoughts with Spillane?
Well, I loved him last year with the Raiders. I've always liked him. I broke him down a bunch when he was with the Steelers. You're going to see here how he fills. As you watch this clip, you're going to watch the right guard pull. And as the right guard pulls, you're going to see him get blown up back into the thing, number 79 right there. Now, as it goes back to the original clip, you're going to see that right guard pull, and you're going to see Spillane attack that right guard. And as he attacks that right guard, he is super physical. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. If the Browns have one issue on that defense, it's they don't have a vocal guy who is nasty and not liked. And that's what the middle linebacker should be. He should arrive at the ball angry, but he should not be everybody's best friend. Even the guys on his own team. A middle linebacker has to be nasty. Now, JOK is that guy, but JOK is quiet. JOK is also, we're not sure where he's at physically with that, you know, with his neck and things like that. So they're going to need a linebacker, especially in the short scheme, that second level guy that can get everybody lined up, play with physicality, play in space, cover multiple positions, but more than anything else, be a leader by his voice and his physicality, and that's what Spillane gives you. I love this guy on film. I think he'd be a great fit. And now, if you get him and then you bring back, and JOK's back healthy, now you're talking about a guy, you know, with Jordan Hicks and all these other guys, but they need a vocal guy who can stay healthy. Spillane's that guy.
Yeah, and to your point, that linebacking core is a question mark until you figure out exactly what JOK can do. Hopefully he's back on the field. That would be a big lift to that defensive unit.
Yeah, and if you can get a guy who's vocal, you can let JOK. Sometimes when you make a guy be vocal or you try to make a guy who's a leader, some guys lead by example. JOK is a guy who leads by example. He's not a real big vocal guy when you see him down at practice, but he plays with his hair on fire, and he's a guy who's just really a good football player. But you do need that vocal guy who's going to be consistently healthy and can get in there and get everybody lined up and play with a chip on his shoulder. And that's what Spillane would give you, or a guy like Spillane will give you.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always really good film breakdown, video analysis. This is some free agents to keep your ear out for, as we'll start to hear about those things Monday when legalized tampering in NFL free agency begins. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock when the NFL news will start flowing in with free agency. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports4CLE.